Good evening, everyone. Actually, as the board of the Saudi chapter, we are honored to host the outstanding and highly talented ICF certified mentors, coaches, Coach Aref Mubarak and Coach Marc Bowles. In this chapter initiative, we are here to support coaches who are seeking ICF credential or renewing or just simply want to build their coaching skills. Coach Aref Mubarak is ICF Master Certified Coach, Executive and Team Coach, and ICF Mentor Coach and Assessor. Coach Marc Bowles is ICF Professional Certified Coach, ICF Mentor Coach, ICF PCC Assessor, Leadership and Development Coach, Associate Faculty Member at Royal Roads University. You are welcome, and I will give you the mic, Coach Aref and Coach Marc, for an additional info. Thank you.
Assalamu alaikum. Thank you very much for the invite and happy to be here. And I'll turn the mic to Marc to go ahead and initiate it, and then I will follow. Please go for it, Marc.
Well, thank you. And I too are grateful for the invite to support all of you in this coaching journey. So what we're going to explore is just the coaching process in terms of mentor coaching, what it might look like. And according to the ICF for the credentialing piece, this involves a total of 10 hours. And what we're looking at is 7 of those 10 hours can occur in a group coaching setting. So what we are looking at is initiating 2 groups, one for myself, one for Aref, and we will each be taking on 9 people in the group. And what we'll do is go through group coaching for the 7 hours, where we'll work almost in a triad setting, coach, coachee, observer. And then the others in the other 6 will be observing in that session, and we'll rotate through for the 7 group coaching sessions. Those sessions would be about 90 minutes long, so we can coach, debrief, switch roles, debrief over 90 minutes. The final 3 hours out of the 10 with requirement from ICF is one-on-one mentor coaching, where you'll work with your mentor coach one-on-one, reflect on your coaching, and move through that process. So just anything else, like what else do we want to add into there?
Great. So one thing also, we want to make sure that this whole process of either 7 hours or 10 hours, it has to be spread over 3 months, because one of the requirements for the ICF that from the day we start, from the day we end, it has to be minimum, not maximum, minimum of 3 months. Now, the beauty about this is we're coming through the ICF, the Saudi ICF chapter, and from our side, you could use these hours as official hours for your credentialing. And these are because we're both approved as mentors and registered mentor in the ICF. So once you finish the 7 hours with us, and then you will be totally on your own to go and find another coach. And that's a practice in the ICF, which is approved, that you could have more than one mentor, as long as you get a letter from them, you get a notification from them, how many hours you have finished with them. But it has to be 7 hours group, and it has to be 3 hours that individual. Now, that's on the process. Now, what I would like to add here, Marc, and for the participants here, is now, if you are not shooting for your credentialing, that's okay. You could still be with us and to scale up your coaching skills and to learn. And let's say, for example, you are ACC now, you're preparing for PCC. We can also accommodate that for you during these mentoring hours. So please take this opportunity. It doesn't come all the time. I haven't heard of any other chapters doing this. Use it and make the benefit and maximum of it. It's a great opportunity. You're mute.
That seems to be happening a lot lately.
I know. They're saying this is the mantra of 2020. You're mute.
You're mute. Yeah. Yeah, and this is so the roles that we would be facilitating in the session is one thing from the ICF, and just from my own experience would be important, is for those that are going to engage in the process, like many of the opportunities that you are using to practice and integrate your coaching, is to bring something to the session that is real, and bring something that there is a connection, that you have a connection to. That helps both the coach and yourself experience that process of coaching. And by bringing something that's real, you are going to raise the level of the coaching that you will receive, but also the coaching that is being observed by the others in the group. And I think this is a really important, because my experience is so many people say, you know what, I learned so much by observing what the coach does well. And so that observation role is a very important role. And whether you're going ACC, what are some of those competencies within the ACC or PCC that you want to explore more, that you can observe and go, how does that show up in this conversation? An important part for me is when you're in the observer's seat, is not to come into the sessions going and observe the coach and going, I wonder why they're not at, like, well, I would have asked this, or I would have asked this. And it's not, when you're observing these mentor sessions, it's not what you would do, it's what are you observing that the coach does? Because we all know that we all have our own style. We all show up differently. And that's the wonder of these mentor sessions, is to observe how many different ways people come across and coach others, and develop your own uniqueness, or if I could say, your fascination. What is it that's fascination, that's fascinating about you as a coach, that's gonna support the people you're sitting across from, or in this case, you're zooming in from. As we know, face-to-face is not an option for many of us right now. Okay, so I'll leave that at that. I'll let my colleague step in, and I'm going to mute myself in advance.
I love it that you're focusing in the process of what's going to happen during these 7 hours. I love that. And I'm going to take it differently. How else can you use these 7 hours or 10 hours of mentoring? So one, you could use it for your credentialing. Second, you could use it also for renewal the credentialing, or going from ACC to PCC. Another thing you could use it for is use it for your development, as personal development. Now, I'm not sure if you could use this as a CCE or a CCU, as a coach continuous education, but I think Farah or ICF Saudi can verify that if it could be used as a CCU. But I tell you, how I grew up as a coach, what helped me to be the way I am today is because I always had a mentor. So, and of course, a mentor, a supervisor, and a coach throughout, from ACC to my MCC, I always still up to date. I have coach, mentor, and a supervisor. So use this opportunity. Use an, get to know Marc, get to know Aref, get to know their style, get to know, different schools as well. Enhance and develop your coaching skills and the way and your approach and the entrance of coaching, and what are you focusing on, what are you not focusing on. And I think it's a huge opportunity. So This is what I got, and I'll turn it to the ICF to start taking the questions from the participants. And please tell us one thing, like, what are you here for? What is your question, and whose your question is to? Mark or me, or both of us?
Thank you so much, Aref and Mark. Before we get into the question, I do want to mention that this initiative by the ICF chapter about mentor coaching, as Aref mentioned, is kind of one of a kind, but it also it would have not been possible without the contribution and the support of Coach Aref and Coach Mark. They are supporting us with their time, their knowledge, their expertise. And we are very grateful for that. And I definitely encourage everyone to, use this opportunity and interact and, push beyond your comfort zone and ask questions. It's a great opportunity for growth. Also wanted to say that Aref is joining us from here. You're in Saudi right now, Aref, right? Saudi Arabia, and Marc is also joining us from Canada today. So we have it's been a lot of work for this initiative, and hopefully we can deliver the benefits of it, and you use it to the best way possible. Thank you so much for joining us, and yes, we'll write the questions on the chat, and if you can raise your hand, you can get started. Aref, can you please mention the questions again? Probably I'll let people forget with my comments.
Sorry, Farah, what a question?
The 3 questions that you want people to answer today.
Yes, sorry about that. Okay, so what are you here for? What do you want? Do you want to skill yourself in the coaching? Do you want to go for your accreditation? And what accreditation is that, from ACC to PCC, or you're just going for your ACC? And one thing is, like to say, I have spent 1 year in my ACC. I would like to prepare myself to renew my ACC, for example. So just tell us where you are. What are you interested in? And what do you wish to happen?
Okay. So just to also ask the questions in Arabic. السلام عليكم جميعا. يعني بنرحب في الجميع ونتمنى انكم تشاركونا بالإجابة على الأسئلة. يعني ما الهدف من حضوركم اليوم؟ ايش اللي بتتمنوا انكم تحققوه بحضوركم هاي الجلسة اليوم؟ وايضا هل انتم عندكم accreditation او بدكم يعني تاخذوا الاعتماد، واي ليفل، اي مستوى؟ هل هو ACC ل PCC ولا لسه بدنا ناخذ ال ACC ولا بنعمل تجديد؟ فرجاء يعني هاي المعلومات راح تكون مفيدة لنا ولكم، فممكن المشاركة عبر الشات أو يعني raise your hand, open the mic. بنحب نسمع منكم. So you can see some answers coming in the chat.
Man is raising his hand. He wants to talk.
تفضل عبد الرحمن.
Hello, everyone. Good evening. Thank you, ICF Saudi Chapter, for arranging this, and thanks for Alia, for the coaches, Aref, and Coach Mark, and everyone. I'm already an ACC certified, and it's been a year since I got the accreditation from ICF, and I'm basically here to know what I have to do in order to upskill and achieve the next level, the next accreditation, the NCC. So you would help me to advise what kind of steps and in order to follow the process and achieve the next milestone in my accreditation with ICF. Thank you.
Yeah, hi, I can go next. Hi, everybody. Bill Carlock. I work with Salman, and pleased to be on the call. I would second what was said about everyone's time commitment. I think this is great. To answer the questions, I'm just looking for more skill. I've learned that, when we do coaching supervision at work, it's helpful. So more is better in a sense. I've been at ACC since November of last year, so it'll be a year. and looking forward just to get some extra support so that I don't feel I'm doing it on my own. You know, through the group, I think that may keep me more focused and improve my skill. Thank you.
Okay, we can read some of the chat. We have Haytham, he is here for ACC credentialing. Fedwa ACC. We also have Nayar, I hope I'm saying the name correctly, ACC to PCC. Okay. And then we have Maha, she's got her 100 hours. She wanna apply for the ACC credentialing and gain further knowledge. Okay, also Ahmed is for ACC. So we have a lot of people going for their ACC in the group. Bill as well, Bill is going for the PCC. Okay. Hisham going for ACC accreditation. So a big number of the attendees today are going for their ACC credentialing, and we have few going for their PCC.
So, Mark, do you have anything to say about the first question somebody is asking?
Yeah, the within the if you want to say movement, or within the journey going from, for those that have their ACC to PCC, the ICF does identify the different markers, or the different, if you want to say, competencies that as you're coaching, just think of it as showing up at a richer, deeper level as you go through. And so rather than, so in other words, just digging deeper into the conversations with the coachee. And the wonderful thing about the ICF is they've identified the competencies for ACC, PCC, and the MCC. And it's important for us as mentor coaches to know that if you're going for ACC, our feedback isn't at an MCC or potentially PCC level. It's important that we work within where you are at to help you establish a really good foundation for if you're going for your ACC. Let's focus on those skills to move you through. My experience is that many people will be demonstrating some of the competencies at a PCC level, yet the majority of their competencies are ACC if they're going for their ACC. And that's where the feedback on our role will come in. Similar, if you're going to PCC, then we'll explore how those competencies show up within the PCC level as well. Hopefully that helps. Did I answer that question within that framework?
I think you gave a fairly good wide, what are we going to do, and how does the ICF look at it, and meeting the coach where they are and take it from there. I would like to add something as well. So for the people going for their ACC credentialing, it's very straightforward. We'll take you through the competencies, we'll take you through the code of ethics, and we will prepare you to get ready for record your call and to get transcript. We can help you also in the process during these 6 hours or 7 hours to evaluate your call and to tell you, okay, this is good to be submitted to the ICF or not. Me and Mark can do that because we know what the ICF is looking for. And I think this is where the opportunity comes in because we're both assessors. That's one. The other thing for Bill, for example, I'll take just Bill, for example. He got his ACC last November. So he's looking also to scale himself up on the way to PCC as well as Abdurrahman. So my advice to you is you just got your credentialing in ACC. Right now, how are we going to shift you or take you or help you to move to the next stage? I'll say it right now, and this is just an information for everybody. Now, when you are an ACC for the 100 hours, you're coaching in a model. Now, when you want to move to a PCC, you will be coaching in a process. So we will see how that shift could happen, starting from your 101 to the 500 hours required. Stay at least 3 years. That's what I always advise, and that's what I have done. I've stayed 3 years in my ACC to get my PCC because it taught me a lot. It taught me to make the shift from focusing on the model itself to focus on the process, hence focusing on the whole person. So all of this is going to be introduced to you, and you are going to be mentored during this mentoring session and how the shift could happen.
Aref, I really in so much alignment with the last sentence, because I do have personal experience with, taking time to finding your own coaching style. I feel that, you go from, you know the structure, and, coaching is not structure, but somehow when you learn it, it feels like it is. And then when you start navigating it, you find your own style, and that takes time. What works for you, how to ask these questions, how to be present in the coaching moment. For me, so I definitely see, giving yourself time and not rush it. Absolutely.
So if we could, Farah, if we could have a category like, people wants to go from ACC to for their credentialing ACC, and for people who are interested on just skilling up themselves to be better coaches, and for people who are preparing for their PCC, that would help.
Okay, so maybe I will type a line now in the chat that will say, if you're going for your ACC, and please no one else write under it except for people who are going for the ACC credentialing. So you don't have it yet. Right, maybe I can put a few lines like this and we can get an idea really quickly about that. So going.
Farah, sorry, Abdullah Al-Ghamdi is asking a question.
Yeah, go ahead.
And I think this question is really important.
Go ahead.
I want to sound it off to you, Mark. Is those sessions counted when apply for MCC?
Well, it's a great question. I saw that question, and I am currently going through the final stages with recordings for my MCC, as Farah knows, and just going through those. And I'm going through a group mentor coaching myself, and so those 7 hours with group and 3 one-on-one sessions for my MCC. So it's important that you meet the ICF credentialing standards that are there as well. And like Aref, I always hear, beware the coach who has no coach. And it's that ongoing learning. And when you look at the competencies from ICF, that's where the competency around coaching mindset is. What is your path for growth? What is your plan for growth? And it's interesting, and I really appreciate what Farah and Aref have said, is you're shifting from the technical of doing to the strength of your presence and who you're being. And that's an important distinction for me when working with others. Is it just sort of, I can tell when people are almost following a script versus who are they being in the conversation. And that's that next level that we're hearing about. So we want to shift you into exploring, who are you and who do you need to be, and who are you being in that conversation for meeting the client where they're at. And so we'll be exploring that as you get into the PCC and upper levels, is how are you shifting from that, in some cases, overthinking to just being. and contributing to the space of the conversation.
Thanks, Mark. I want to have engagement with Abdurrahman. If you could open your mic, sorry, Abdullah Al-Ghamdi, if you could just open your mic and just tell us exactly where you are.
Yes, hello.
Yes, Abdullah.
Good evening, everybody.
Good evening.
I am Abdullah Ghamdi, PCC. Yeah, I just was asking about if this counted and when we apply to MCC. Because Aref, I think you are MCC, is it?
Right.
Okay. That was my question.
So, Abdullah, right now, I understand when you're thinking about your MCC, you're already set as far as training-related, coach-related training is 200 hours, and you're already close or past your 2,500 hours. Is that correct?
No, I am on the way, you know. But,
okay.
You know, while this is a mentoring session, so I'm asking, is it counted or not?
Yes, it is, because you're going for your MCC. You need to be mentored by another MCC, because what's the difference between ACC, PCC, and MCC? ACC there is markers, PCC there is markers, but in the MCC there is qualitative markers and quantitative markers as well. So you need to be mentored, especially both in those two, and to prepare you for that MCC level. Yeah, but
Okay.
it would be counted.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Back to you, Farah.
Thank you, Aref. We do have Abdurrahman raising his hand. So if you want to go ahead and ask your question.
Hi, everyone. Actually, I would like to ask Coach Aref regarding those number of required hours to move from ACC to BCC. For an internal coach, those hours that spending with, for example, internal coaches. For example, I'm working in an organization and I took a couple of sessions with employees for coaching. Those hours that I'm going to spend with the employees in the organization as an internal coach, will this be considered as part of these 500 hours throughout the process and the journey to BCC?
Absolutely, Abdurrahman. Whether you're an internal or external coach, those hours are counted simply because they are considered as paid as well. As you know, 30% of the hours, whether you're applying for your ACC or PCC or MCC, 30% has to be pro bono, which is tatawwa'iyya, and the other 70% has to be paid. And since you're an internal coach, what you need to do, you need to get from HR those number of hours that you've been coached, and number of employees, and duration from this date to this date. Abdurrahman Jude have coached this many hours, this many employees, and that's all you want to have. And when you fill out the form to prepare for your credentialing, you're not going to be send it anymore to the ICF, but you are going to prepare it just in case randomly you are going to be asked. So just one letter from your HR validating you being internally coaching the employees, it will be counted as paid hours. Yeah.
Great, thank you.
So Coach Aref and Coach Marc, would you like me to collect this information about the, who's going from which stage to what at this point? Okay, so I'm going to put in the chat going for ACC credentials. Under that line, write your name in the chat. Yeah, I saw people wrote before. Yeah, go ahead. Yeah, under that line now, going for ACC credential. Haytham, even if you wrote it before, please write it again. Okay. Dua wrote it in a direct message, so I'll write it. Okay, so 3 people. Okay, I'm Amina. Anybody else going for ACC? We have 4 people now.
Farah, I think there is one more previously wrote Ahmed.
Ahmed. I have their full names. I can get that back in a minute here. Okay, anybody else? All right, so we're gonna write going for PCC. Okay, Sarah Obaid, your ACC. Okay. Okay, who's going for PCC? Okay. Okay. Okay, so we have more people, seems like, for PCC. Okay, anybody else for PCC?
Nair, I think. Mr. Nair.
I'm sorry?
Mr. Nair.
Oh, yes.
Ah, Reem, you're going for your PCC.
Okay, so should we put for skills, like sharpening skills? MCC. Okay. Okay, so let's get some count in here.
Farah, so since Salman is saying going to MCC a few years away though, I think Salman, if you're okay that you can register to scale up your coaching skills to MCC level, but not to be mentored as MCC.
Sorry, my mute wasn't working. That's an interesting idea. Can you tell me a little bit more about that? Like, what's the difference with what you're saying?
Yeah, so right now you're at a PCC level. When you say a few years, I take it like, you know, you're between 1,000 and 2,000 probably. And
I'm close to 1,000.
Close to 1,000. There you go.
Yeah, maybe more than a few years.
It's a very, very good place to be, by the way. You know, at 1,000, I think this is my golden prime years. And not to worry about, you know, whether I'm coaching an MCC or I'm at very, very comfortable years. So what my suggestion is you scale up your PCC to move towards the MCC level. So like, for example, the new competencies for now, as I can just recall off top of my head, coach being okay with the silence. So like when you gauge yourself being okay with the silence, that's a good quality of a coach, but it's more of a quality of an MCC. So you find those competencies that would take you to MCC and start practicing them now, and embed them and embody them while you're a PCC. Now, when you get ready, you go for a mentor that mentors you for an MCC level. That's what I meant.
No, thank you. I like that. I like what you said there, especially about you said earlier too, or maybe it was Mark, but about the difference between at ACC, the doing, and then the PCC, there's a bit more of the being, I guess. And I think that's really powerful. And what you just said as well about, as you move forward, you realize that the more you get experience in coaching, the less you think you need to do or say. You know, like allow for the silences, like you said, or allow for the pauses or the things like that. So yeah, I appreciate that.
But yeah, Salman, during that silence, you're saying a lot of things as well.
You are, yes.
So you're kind of like holding that space for the client, and an MCC level, that space quality kind of really enhance and improve, and the vulnerability of the client becomes even apparent. Wouldn't you say that? Wouldn't you say that, Mark?
Yeah, absolutely. And I just typed in there, just, you know, 1,000 hours, it's way to go. It's a challenge to get those hours. I'm finding many more people that are coaching internally have seemed to get those hours sooner. It's just when you think of, boy, my spelling's bad today, H-O-R-S. I just noticed that. I apologize for that. Getting that extra 1,500 hours, just, it really allows you to just sit in the conversation at a different level. And one thing I know about the ICF is if you want to consider the bookends to the competencies, and one is that presence is a really big piece of the evaluation process. And that's really speaks to the being part, and getting comfortable sitting in the space with that extra 1,500 hours and getting feedback on that. I love to learn, and I love to get feedback as much as possible. And I just think of the wonder that can happen sitting in that space and reflecting on your own coaching of, how did I show up in this conversation that impacted the coachee today? And really thinking about that over 1,500 hours, you will be ready to go.
So let's get you started, Salman and Abdurrahman. Let's get you started in that journey. What do you do after the session, whether Abdurrahman or Salman? Right after the session, what do you usually do?
Okay, so you're asking right after a coaching session, what do I do?
Right.
So I like to have some time to kind of, like, the word I use for myself is decompress, but I mean, kind of get re-established or grounded. So like, I'll start to think about anything that was noticeable to me. I'll start to think about what was in this, when the coachee leaves, I'm still in that same coaching space until I leave. And so what's in this space? I start thinking about what's in this space, what needs to be here, what was in that space that maybe I'm you know, I want to address or at least consider. And you know, I don't look back and like edit what I should have said and done like I used to do. I used to do that when I was early on. I say, oh, I should have asked this or I should have said that. I don't do that, but I do kind of go with, well, what was the flow? What was the feel? And essentially, a question that I often ask towards the end, if it comes up naturally, is, you know, what's possible now from here in this point? What's possible now, like to deepen learning or forward the action? And I start to think about that. Well, what's possible? You know, like things like that. There's just a lot of natural reflection, and I might even do that on a walk. I might take a walk for 10 minutes around my workplace and kind of think about that.
Fantastic. So two things. Jot down these reflections, like, you know, have a reflection form. Usually, like, you know, if you could connect with somebody who has this reflection, or you could connect with me, or through Farah, maybe I can send her, then she can send it to you. Reflection is really, really important after each session. And that's what I usually do. And that's what I did when I was a PCC to MCC. That's what really helped me. That's one thing. The other thing, have a supervisor. A supervisor is really something that we're not used to in this part of the world. And often ask a question, what is the difference between a mentor and a supervisor? So a mentor would help you to coach better, a supervisor to help you to be a better person, not a better coach, but a better person. Because often a lot of things get triggered during the coaching session, and we don't clinique, we don't sound it off, we don't supervise it with somebody. And I think supervisor can help you to be a better person, because at MCC level, you already have it. You already have the skills. You already master the competencies. But as a person, that's what you could bring. That's the being level. And these are the two advices that I would advise anybody going for their MCC, supervisor and reflection. And reflection, seriously, from ACC to PCC to MCC. I still reflect. I still do my reflection every day.
We do have a question from Sandra. She had her hand up.
Yes, hello. Yes, hello. I have a question because I cannot remember. I'm planning to go for my PCC a few months before the expiration of my ACC. So I've got my training hours, I've got my coaching hours, and I'm aiming for the mentoring hours, and that's why I'm here. Is there a time frame? I mean, how early can somebody complete their mentoring hours before they apply, let's say, to the credential? Is something like a time frame? For example, in my case, I aim in about a year, my ACC will expire. So I'm thinking of starting soon my mentoring sessions. That's one question. And then I have another one.
Mark, you want to take that?
You know, hearing that, Sandra, it speaks to a plan, and that's part of that coaching mindset. Is what's your plan? What's your personal growth plan? And if you're currently, if the ACC you're at right now, and you're going after your PCC, doing the mentoring right now will be part of it. I wouldn't recommend waiting to the last minute to do that. Things need to be in place before submitting. They're going to want all the documentation when it comes in. So they want it complete so they can actually explore your renewal or application to make sure you've got the correct documentation.
And just one more point, Sandra, if you're going for your PCC and your training program is ACSTH, then you need to submit 2 recordings. Now, these 2 recordings, as Mark suggests, is going to take a long time to find 2 good recording that can pass your credentialing. And it's painful, Sandra. It's painful when you submit your documentation, and then one of your recording comes back and say it did not pass, and then you have to still wait, which is it's really a painful process. So yeah, totally agree with Mark. Have a sufficient time, have at least a year time to work on your mentoring and your recording and get them set.
That's great. Yeah, I know, because for my ACC I also submitted recordings, so it is an intense process. So yeah, so that's the right timing. So there is no let's say deadline how early somebody can have their mentoring sessions before they, or how late, how close to the submission of the new credential. Because I think there is a requirement about the coaching hours, so a number of them should be within the last, I don't know, 12, 18 months, something like that. And I was wondering if that's the same for the mentoring sessions as well.
Sandra, that's a very, very good point. Is when it comes to coaching, the clause in the ICF says that at least you have not left coaching, you have not stopped coaching for the past 18 months. So in the past 18 months, you have done some coaching. That is the concern only. Regarding the mentoring, even if it's your renewal day is the 30th of March and your submission is 30th of March and you finish your mentoring 30th of March, that's perfectly, as long as it falls within 3 months.
Fantastic. Thank you so much. And if you allow me just a last question, a logistic question. So what will be the frequency of those 7 mentoring sessions that we will have the opportunity to do with you, and whether there is going to be one group in Arabic and one group in English, or we're going to be all together? I mean, logistic-wise, how this is going to take place?
Well, I can answer for the English portion, because I know my Arabic is not good at all, as much as I try and practice. You know, I'll leave that up, but I know there will be one. We'll have 2 groups, and I know from having prior contracts in Riyadh and working over several months, 6-8 months with some 20 leaders in Riyadh, that the use of, I have a booking calendar, and Farah is familiar with it. It really makes a difference in finding those times that work for you for the schedule. And it's preferable that the sessions are, you know, a couple weeks apart, but as Aref said, like minimum of 3 months. And when you think about it, it just gives you the opportunity to implement what your learnings are with the potential clients that you have, and gradually layer the learning on, so your own improvement becomes more obvious at the end of those 3 months. So it may be, depending if there's a group that wants to work with myself, then we'll have a group, like what is the time that works best for us, and make sure we have those group sessions.
Yeah, I believe that makes sense, Mark, because there will be 2 groups, one Arabic also, or bilingual, let's say, and one purely English. And I volunteer to take the bilingual.
I know you got your eyes, Marc, on the bilingual, but you know, Aref spoke first, so.
Yeah, you're familiar with my Arabic, so you know I'm not in the bilingual group.
I did want to mention something to Sandra, and please, Marc and Aref, correct me if I'm wrong in this point, but because I'm also heading towards the expiration date for my ACC, I was surprised to learn that 3 years for ACC does not mean 3 years from the date you got credentialed. They have a date up. So I got credentialed 3 years ago in June, but my expiration date is in December 31st. So I don't know if it's in December for everyone, or it is some sort of a date calculation that they do, but I wasn't able to know when my credential expires until I went to the website, the ICF website, and kind of looked that up under my profile. I don't know if there's another way that you get to know that. Maybe when you receive the initial letter or initial email, probably, which I forgot. But I just wanted to mention this point because I thought for the longest time that is going to expire in June.
Mm-hmm. Good point, Farah, because also my expiration date is in December, and I got credentialed in another month. So yeah, you're right on that.
Okay.
Yeah. Just another point in terms of the credentialing, and I know Aref spoke about these pro bono hours, is that due to the COVID and the pandemic, they've actually, and they know the challenges internationally with if you want to say income for some, is that they've increased the amount of hours, pro bono hours, a percentage of it as well. And there's also a little extension. There's more breathing room to complete things. Aref, correct me if I'm wrong on where your awareness of this is, but that's my understanding, is that there's a little more flexibility on both the pro bono hours and meeting after that. I think there's a 4 to 6 week breathing room, and you'll hold your credential. Even if it expires, you'll still be able to kind of step in and meet the requirements based on They're doing that for COVID. So if you want to, I'm not going to say take advantage, that's not the right words, but if you want to leverage the opportunity to have those pro bono hours as part of your portfolio, this is a wonderful time to take a look at that as well.
Yeah, it used to be 25% pro bono. Now it's 30%.
Mm-hmm.
They have realized that like the whole world is really they're kind of encouraging pro bono work. And there is one really important and interesting point here, and Sandra and for everybody else. So let's say Farah and Sandra, you're ACC today and you want to renew your ACC. So here is the requirement: 10 hours of mentoring, 40 hours of CCE,
Mm-hmm.
and also 40 hours of CCE, and also 10 hours of mentoring. Now, versus if you want to go for your PCC, you only have to submit your training related, coach related training hours, which is up to 125, and your 10 hours of mentoring. You don't have to have 40 hours of CCE. And I find that very, very interesting, because the challenge, Sandra, is not as much as in mentoring, as much as during these 3 years, you're supposed to have collected these CCE, finding those programs, finding anything that gives you a CCE. And that's the real challenge, not the mentoring.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and you're at a good time, because previously to get your PCC was 750 hours.
Oh yeah, I was
when
there.
When I got mine, it was 750 hours. I know. And so I came out with an AC. I had my ACC in 2004. And so you look at the time frame for me, both as an associate faculty and now going after my MCC, you think of, and I think of quality coaching hours, not just, and it's how do you validate those coaching hours, and how do you actually look in the mirror and say that was a true coaching session. And the big one also is, how are you tracking those hours? I would recommend, don't wait to the last minute, have a tracking system where you're keeping track of the actual coaching hours, rather than deciding you're going to go after it and then start going back 2 years into your calendar and trying to establish those hours. So really, really be diligent about keeping track of your hours.
Yeah.
And just in the same line with the flexibility that COVID is allowing for in terms of the ICF, and I think we are at the very deadline of that, is renewing of the membership. I think the deadline is tomorrow, and they are offering plans, installment plans. I think there are two payments instead of the one full one. So if you were not aware of that, and that could be helpful, this is a flexibility that the ICF is offering as well. We do have a question. What's the validity of coaching hours if one is aiming at moving from ACC to PCC? I know there is a certain percentage of coaching hours that need to be in the last 12 to 18 months, but for the remaining, how old could they be?
So the hours is accumulative. Like, if you applied for your ACC and you had 150 hours, this always will be counted for you. And when you're going for your PCC and you already applied for the PCC at $500 or $600, they would remain as yours. They don't age, they don't expire. Now, that's an interesting point about the 12 and 18 hours. I think there is a clause in the MC and the ICF that says there is a percentage. On top of my head, I have to look at the website and know what is the percentage or what happened in the last 12 and 18 months. But I can't think about it now. But if you go for credentialing, ACC, PCC, it would clearly say this much percentage in the past 12 and 18 months. Do you remember, Mark, offhand?
No, I'd need to go back in there and take a look as well. And this is from my own experience, and I'm lucky that I had tracked and kept the hours from my initial ACC and had a spreadsheet done when I was renewing my PCC and adding, at the time when I did it, submitting the CCE hours. Because of the confidentiality and because of storage, ICF doesn't, after a year or two, they don't store your file. You're on record as having your PCC, or ACC, but they don't store those files forever. So make sure you make a copy and have a really good tracking system again. I did have to go back and validate and find some hours to prove to them that this was actually submitted, because I submitted far more hours than was required. Otherwise, you may have to do it over again. So especially as you go through the system. So really be diligent about tracking your hours.
Do we have any other questions at this point? We have, for people going to their ACC, we have 5 people. Going for their PCC, we have 4 people. And sharpening their skills, we have 2 people. These are the people who responded in the chat. So kind of equal groups. If the people who are sharpening their skills, each went to a group as well.
Okay, so how is it going to happen, Farah? You going to reach out for those participants after we had a panel, and then who would prefer only English, who would prefer bilingual?
Yes.
And then we can get together, you and I and Mark, and then we can draw the plan. We could go back to them and tell them when are we going to start. Does that sound good?
Yes, yes, sounds great. In the registration, everybody provided their email and contact info, so we do have that. And I have everybody's attending today also written down, so I'll be able to reach out to everybody who was here today and kind of, continue the communication and then report back to you. Then you can take it from there. So we'll just get things organized and ready for you to get started.
Great. I'm excited, Mark. I don't know about you.
Oh, I am always excited to pass on. Farah knows me well. She knows how I get excited about helping the industry grow. And the more people we can help and support changing the conversations we have and making a better world, the better it's going to get. So I'm really excited about it.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Right, this was really awesome, very informative, and I believe a lot of questions were answered, and we learned a lot about the mentoring process. It's important, how it could be counted. But I still, want to open some space for people to open their mic, if they want to share anything, ask anything. We're here for a bit longer. So if you have anything, please go ahead.
Farah, if they have any, just like a coaching conversation, if they have any thoughts or insights, can they email you between now and, as they step away and think about some of this? Can they email
absolutely.
you with some of those questions?
Yeah, absolutely. I'll remind everybody with the chapter email as well. And I'll put it in the chat. And of course, today's session, no, you won't be able to get a CCE for today's session because that needs to be accredited by the ICF first. So unfortunately, yeah, we will not be able to offer that for today's session. Okay, here's the email of the chapter. And we'll be extremely happy to hear from you. We will be sending an email to continue this conversation, you know, and let you know of next steps as well. That's a question for the mentor coaches. Do they earn 2 mentor coaching hours today?
Do we earn those hours? No.
No.
Somebody's got a good sense of humor. Yeah.
Yeah, but I think that's also on the second note, it's a very important question. Unless you talk about code of ethics and competency, then it would not be qualified as a mentoring session.
Mm-hmm.
Unless you do a role play or real play between, you know, like you actually coach, and then there will be certain competencies either to be focused on or so, and the feedback, it would be in the competencies and code of ethics, only then it will be qualified as a mentoring session. Sorry,
Mm-hmm.
pal, not today.
Yeah.
But there is a plenty of chance to do that in the next sessions and in the journey with the both of you. I'm really excited for everyone, and I believe the benefits are limitless and they're really great. All right.
Yeah, I just like Aref's comment there is that piece around the actual mentor coaching session. And I would encourage you to take a look at the ACC competencies and take a look at where you think you are in the competencies. And when you do come to the mentor session, where do you want the feedback focused on? Where the area in the area of development that you want to explore, knowing you're going to get more than one session of feedback in those groups as well for over the 7 hours. So, you know, for me, it's how do you own, or how do you lean into your own learning? And let's focus on the things you feel as well.
Absolutely. I'm just wondering if, I don't know if this is the right time, but like maybe giving everybody a glance into what goes inside the group mentor coaching, like how does it work, or would you rather keep that to when you have your own group?
I don't know what else to add other than what Mark have said. You know, it's going to be a triads usually, like a coach and a client and observer. Each one of you will get a chance to play one of these roles, and you will hear a feedback from both from the observer and from the mentor. And there will be a talk about the competencies, and you will be covering most of the competencies in code of ethics during that session.
Mm-hmm.
All right. If there are no other questions, we really appreciate your attendance today. And definitely we are grateful and very honored of having Coach Aref and Coach Marc here with us today, and, you know, sharing with us their expertise and answering our questions. We are very, very grateful for that. Thank you so much for being here today.
Farah, would you like to use this space? I know Marc is very, very hard to get. You know, time change zone and
Sure.
busy. So would you like to stay back since we still have time to reflect on this?
Absolutely. Absolutely. Yes.
Is that okay with you, Marc?
Yeah.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. I've got it blocked off. I actually have a little bit of time after I blocked off just for my own reflections. So it works. Yeah. Reflective practice already built in.
Absolutely.
And I do want to extend the invitation to the board members who are present with us today, if you'd like to join. And
I would love to attend. Would love to stay. Thank you.
Yes, please do.
Thank you.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah, same here, definitely.
Thank you so much, everyone, for attending. We are going to stay back, the board members and our two guests. Please have a great night, and we really appreciate your attendance.
Thank you. Good night, everybody.
Good night, everyone.
I want to say it's us,
Yes.
right?